Welcome back to Cosmic Leadership. As always, I am your host, Adalina East. I am an EMDR therapist, and I founded something called Transformational Healing that blends neuroscience with spirituality to help you heal from your greatest traumas and fears. I am so excited to share today's episode with you because it is a question and an answer episode. I love receiving your questions. I get them all the time. I get them mostly on Instagram at Adalina East. It's spelled Adalina East. And you are always welcome to send me questions there. I love answering them, and I just really love the interaction. I think after so many years of all of us kind of living in our own bubbles in this world, it's just so nice to have chats with people again. So, this week's question comes from Kristin. And Kristin's question was incredibly relatable, which is why I've decided that we are going to focus on this one today. I've been in the same relationship for years, but we fight all the time. I know his triggers and he knows mine. We know just what buttons to push to make each other mad, but we keep doing it anyway. Am I self-sabotaging? Is he self-sabotaging? How can we stop this cycle? So, Kristin, my love, I am so sorry. I completely relate and I completely understand. I feel like there have been times for many of us in life that have been just exactly like this. And perhaps for some of us, it's still like this. So let's first talk about the fighting piece. It's pretty common, actually, for couples to know exactly what buttons to push for each other and to do it. But what is troubling about this question is that it continues to happen. So one of the things that I like to say as a relationship expert and as someone who's worked with a lot of couples is that most couples end up having the same 3 fights over and over again. There's usually a power dynamic going on there. Sometimes there's differing value systems, but basically it's the same fight over and over again, and it usually revolves around 3 different topics, and those are different for every couple. It sounds like for you all, it probably is maybe even just one single fight that you keep having over and over again, and it tends to be about things that you're already triggered by. So my first piece of advice in this situation would be that, yes, most likely this is self-sabotage. And most likely it's self-sabotage for him as well, because it sounds as though you really do love each other. You stay with each other, right? So there must be some sort of feeling there. Self-sabotage happens for a lot of reasons. Let's first define it. So there are, of course, just as many definitions as you can possibly imagine, but my personal definition of self-sabotage would be doing something that you know is not going to work for you, but doing it anyway. And when I say knowing you're doing something that's not going to work for you, that knowing can be subconscious. So my guess is, because this keeps happening over and over again with you and your partner, is that you both subconsciously know that when you call each other out on these triggers, the fight will explode and get bigger. And you know that that's not going to work for you subconsciously, but it hasn't been brought to your conscious mind until maybe even you were writing this DM to me. If you're both super conscious that this is happening, then it is most certainly self-sabotage on both of your parts, because you are actively doing something that is not going to help or work for either one of you. So let's first deal with that. Okay, why is it that people do things that they know are not going to work for them? It's often the feeling of, this is too good to be true. And it's often the feeling of, I know this is not right at all, and I don't know how else to get out of it. So those are 2 very opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Let's talk about the this is too good to be true end of the spectrum first, because that's a little bit more fun. So if either one of you was raised in an abusive household, know that this is an extremely common reaction to finally feeling safe. If you find a place of safety in your relationship, that can be absolutely terrifying. You have grown up with such instability, you've grown up not really knowing what's coming next, and then you suddenly find this person that makes you feel calm and relaxed and at peace, and that is just so scary. So that could be one reason why you continue to pick the same fights, hit the same trigger buttons. On the other side of the coin, though, is no, I know that this is the wrong relationship, and yet I can't really figure out how to get out. So I'm just going to trigger this person constantly and see what happens. Eventually, we know what will happen, right? There will be a breakup at some point if the two of you continue to trigger each other in the same way all the time. However, what would be more healthy for both of you would be to have that conversation and just say, hey, I've noticed that we both trigger each other like mad when we're starting to get into a fight. I feel like maybe I'm doing it because I don't think this is the right relationship for me and I don't know how to get out of it. And that can be a point of opening for the two of you. You can talk about that. Perhaps he's feeling the same way. Perhaps he doesn't, and he needs you to hear why he thinks the relationship is still a good one. And perhaps that will change your mind. I know it can be scary to broach that conversation because you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but without that conversation, how can you really know where it could go, right? Of course, I just want to say this as a caveat. If there's abuse in the relationship, it's time to go. I in no way condone abuse. If these triggers that you're talking about are like punching each other in the face or, withholding all of the bank cards so the other person has to starve for the week, any kind of that abusive type behavior, not okay. You can seek couples counseling and try to resolve it together, or you can go. I leave that fully in your capable hands. But when we're talking about things like this, like just constantly triggering each other, we have to think about what it is that is the goal underneath all of this. So another possibility could be that you have the unconscious or subconscious goal of making sure that your partner is really in. And so you're trying to make it difficult for them to make sure that they won't go anywhere. This actually was my key in my 20s. I did this all the way through my 20s. My apologies to all of those people I dated in my 20s. That's what I was all about, trying to make sure that they wouldn't go. And of course, many of them went because I was trying on purpose to upset them. Never a great thing, but we all go through our own healing process, and sadly, other people are deeply affected by that. So if you find that this is something in your healing process where you're trying to test him to see if he'll go, that has to be examined and worked on your part. The root of the issue is often childhood rejection. So you can kind of think through, like, what childhood rejections did I go through? Was I rejected by my parents? Was I rejected by siblings, friends, things at school? Think through kind of where that could be rooted. And then you can always use any number of my podcasts. I know I just put one out 2 or 3 weeks ago about rejection. You could use that. Or you could book a private session with me and we can work on it together. Just one more note on this topic. If you feel as though you know what it is that you're doing when you're triggering him, but you have absolutely no idea what he's doing or what he's thinking when he's triggering you, that's also a really good time to have that conversation. Ask him, why is it that you bring up these 2 or 3 things that you know really trigger me? What is that about? Can you expand on that for me? He may not know either, and that's okay. But at least it's a window. It's a way for the two of you to communicate about this and to try to get to the bottom of it. I am always an advocate for couples counseling. I'm always an advocate for individual counseling. I think oftentimes we leap to couples counseling because it seems like it will be easier, and that's where all of our problems lie, is in that relationship. But what we often find after the first few sessions of couples counseling is that the problems lie within each individual. It's old traumas rearing their ugly heads, producing all of these triggers, producing all of this discontent, which could be worked out in like a few sessions of EMDR trauma therapy. So pursue whatever avenue you would like. As always, I advocate for the things that work the most quickly because I have no patience and I just assume other people feel the same way. But if you would like to proceed with couples counseling first, I completely understand. And maybe it is just that particular dynamic. You don't have that dynamic with anyone else. My last bit of experience and recommendation for you would be to go within yourself first before you have conversations with your partner, before you pursue counseling, before you do any of those things. Go within yourself. I know journaling is a pain. It's a pain for me too, but take out a piece of paper, or maybe you even have a journal that you use, and journal what this is about for you. What this is about for you is probably going to be different than what it's about for him. I think getting clarity for yourself first is going to lead you into a really positive direction with this issue. All of my love to you, Kristin. Thank you so much for writing in. Of course, I've changed her name to protect her identity, but she knows who she is. And I'm so very happy to chat with you and to have this time with all of you, because this is such a relatable problem. If you have questions that you'd like me to answer on the podcast, you can send them to me at Instagram at Adalina East, Adalina, or on Facebook at Adalina Healing. All of my love to you.